Hello and welcome back to another Grand Cross Age of Titans video. I am joined by my fiance who is currently just laughing at me. It's Valentine's Day and I had to record to get a video out, so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to drag her along. Right, Carlos?
How sweet.
Alright, so we're going to talk about Mimir. Obviously we tested her on a live stream and I always like doing the shorter videos so that way for those of you who have an attention span of a squirrel, you don't need to go and watch a 2.5 hour live stream. So obviously I ended up awakening her, just more bad choices on my own end. And so obviously her active skill, you do 450% skill damage with 150% damage over time. That is every 2 seconds. Next we have cavalry HP increased by 20% and then fighter attack increased by 15%. Next, we have the attack decrease by 20% and defense decrease by 20%. And then finally, we have the cavalry type affinity damage increased by 25%. So obviously, she's pretty stacked. And then additionally, whenever you awaken her, you get the increased attack by 15% for cavalry troops commanded by Mimir for 5 seconds, and it activates every 10 seconds. So not super overpowered, but still good enough to be pretty tanky. So when I first started testing her, I assumed because of the support skills she was going to be a secondary, kind of like Melody is, but obviously she's not, which is very weird. So I saved a couple reports throughout, so let's go ahead and take a look. So obviously my specialty lab is a little bit more built than Rim, and Rim also used tier 4 while I used tier 5. Everyone he did send out to test with is awakened, I believe. So obviously he sent out Isaac and Roy. I sent out Lust and Mimir. He had 30,000 more troops than me. I only took 13,500 heavily wounded. He took 54,000 approximately. That was pretty much a 2-to-1 trade. Not too bad. Next we're looking at Mimir and Rena against Rena Agnes. I got crushed with tier 5. I sent tier 5 out there and I got crushed. So obviously not the best combination. Next we're going to take a look. We tested Agnes and Mimir, 200,000 troops to 200,000 troops. I believe this is just cavalry. Yeah, so this one is just cavalry testing. And obviously it was 15,000 heavily wounded to 40,000. I only had 122,000 survivors. I thought this would do a little bit better, especially with me having tier 5. But that's okay. Next, I threw out Ara and Mimir against Rena Agnes. 200,000 troops total. 34,000 heavily wounded to 40,125. Technically, by these numbers here, I should win, but since I used tier 5, I lost horribly. Next, he was so kind to send out Rena Isaac. And then this time I threw Mimir as a secondary with Rena primary. I ended up surviving and winning, but power trade, he beat me by 10,000 just because tier 4 to tier 5. This was a really expensive test. I went through like 300 or 400 million food because I was using tier 5 and I forgot.
Oh, yeah. So you're trying to figure out
who she's good with.
Yeah, paired with.
Yep. So whenever we're out on the open field, we always want the best combinations, and then whenever we're rallying a flag or a city, we always want to do the most damage and take the least amount of losses.
Right.
So luckily we have players in the game who go out of the alliance like I do, and so that way we can just 1v1 each other and at least get a portion of the scenarios down. That way we can try and figure it out.
Well, you mentioned one time that you paired her. I can't remember who it was with, but you used tier 5 and you said something about how that wasn't good. Isn't tier 5 like the best?
Yeah, so tier 5 is the best troop level in the game, but each one of these heroes have their own little mixtures and their own builds and everything. So that's why we test different heroes paired together to figure out the best combination. So on this one,
what tier 5 did you use? Did you use cavalry?
Cavalry.
Yeah.
Yep, so Mimir is a cavalry commander.
And then
Cavalry
what's
and
the
fighter,
other one?
technically. You have cavalry, fighters, bombers, archers, catapults, siege, and infantry. So you have 7 tiers in this game.
So which one did you use on the other one that didn't?
This one is all these are cavalry, and then the next couple are going to be switching to fighters. So this one's fighters. So he threw out Arena and Biam. I had Mimir and Erdel, thinking that I would be okay. I healed just under 36,000. He healed 9,200. Technically, I survived the 2-to-1 trade, but the power difference. I look at more than just surviving. I know it'd go in with, half health, but if a tier 4 player with Arena Biam is out on the field and that gives me as much damage as this, I consider this a loss.
What did you use? You used tier 5, right?
Correct. I used tier 5.
So all you have to do is train more
tier 4.
and up your power.
Power
right?
doesn't matter on this one. It was a bad combination choice on my end.
Oh.
So the next combination we tried was Belly and Mimir against Arena Agnes. Arena Agnes is a super powerful combination in the game, both for open field and rallying. And so obviously I put Belly primary. I used fighters again.
They did good.
And then he
for that one.
used cavalry tier 4. Yeah, the trade was a lot better.
Yeah,
I survived.
You only got negative 14,400. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Heavenly wounded.
This trade was great.
0 dead, lightly wounded, and then that's a good combo.
I only lost about 72,000 in this March total, so the power trade was good. So obviously Belly and Mimir is a decent combination to use. Next we use Alicia and Mimir. This combination, we thought that it was going to be a little bit better, but it wasn't. So again, I used fighters, and then Rim used cavalry tier 4.
The last one was what? Heavenly wounded, negative 14,000?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the trade was better on his end with this one. But he also had an additional 30,000, and then I realized that I only threw 207,000 troops out here, which I do fix.
That's not terrible, though.
But not the best. Next, we used it again. I had 240. He had 280,000. The trade was a lot better the second time. I'd imagine that my Mimir popped more skills. So this trade would definitely be okay as long as you had the 240, especially if we wanted to pop a 50%, which would give me an additional 120,000 troops. That would be great. I did the Belly Mimir against Arena Agnes again, 240,000 to 250,000. The power trade was pretty darn good. We lost about 105,000 troops, but not horrible. I do have more somewhere. Okay, I whacked Juno.
That
Hold
one
on.
turned out good.
And Huppy just kept scouting and attacking me constantly, which really was annoying. So that's the Skygate. Hold on, I gotta figure this out. Huppy was attacking my castle. As always, Huppy's just doing Huppy things. Huppy... Here we go, here's another one. So this is an Agnes and Mimir. I think we went back to Cavalry. Nope, we still used fighters against Rena and Roy. So Rena and Roy, both of those are super powerful, but they were also super expensive. So, Rena itself, we spent like $700 on her. And then Roy was like another 800 or 900, and then there was that 4, so I only chose to spend on 2. And then Huppy decided to attack me with one march. He decided to attack my city. Okay, here we go. This is so now we're going into tier 5 versus tier 5. So for context, Classic stayed in Alliance. He had a city skin on. I can't remember if he had a 5% attack buff on, but he may or may not have. So he used Lumia Meliby against an Aura and Mimir. Even amount of troops, both of them were tier 5. He had balloons, I had fighters. I got crushed.
You would have wanted to use, balloons, what he had.
No, I wanted to use something other than Aura as a primary.
Well, yeah, because he used Lumi.
Yep. Lumi's one of the ones that came out with Season 2, and she's very good as well.
Yeah, there was a couple that came out, I remember making your thumbnails.
So, Belly Alicia is supposedly the top, if not second best March in the game. I used Belly and Mimir, and we had a pretty nice trade. It was literally down to the wire. I had 500 troops left.
Wow. I was going to say, because, you have less heavily wounded than he does.
And I had 40,000 less troops. That is massive when we're looking at reports,
too. That's awesome.
So, at the same time, the Bombers, I believe Classic has more upgraded in his lab than I do, so we'll just keep going. Next, I use a Mimir and Agnes against the Lumi and Melody. 200,000 troops even. I survived with 86,000 troops. The trade was almost a 2-1. That was a really, really, really good one.
Do you need water?
No, I'm okay. The next one that we used was a Mimir and Belly. So what's really crazy is as soon as we switched these pairings around, it really started to get interesting. So 240,000 troops apiece, which is why he put Lumi and then Alicia behind.
Well, I feel like you did both of those, but was Belly did you have him as secondary?
On this one, yes. The first report, I had Belly as primary.
So yeah,
now we're
you
looking
need to
at
switch
the
Mimir
reverse.
to...
Correct.
Oh yeah, because you said, you know, you had her as secondary, and then after you started doing that, you switched her, and things started to turn around, and she became a primary, and the rest became secondary.
So now we're taking a look at this one. So obviously it was a really good trade, 327,000 power to 500,000 power. Next, I did it with Alicia, and this trade was even better than the other one.
Oh
so
yeah, only...
I survived with 110,000 troops. Let alone, bombers are weaker to fighters, but that is still a massive trade, considering the fact that Alicia is technically an archer commander.
Well,
and
guys
fighters
definitely
are
use those two.
Yep.
And then what troops
I got
did
bored,
you
and so I hit
use?
Juno.
Did you use the bombers for that one?
No, fighters.
Fighters.
So obviously, in my opinion, the absolute best march that we can do is Mimir and Alicia. But you also have to take a little bit of a loss, and you split up Belly and Alicia. So
Mimir would be primary, and Alicia would be secondary.
So surprisingly, for being a cavalry and support, she's great. So if we look at her talent tree, this is kind of how I built her. I built her more of an attack, just like full-on attack and rally, than I did anything else. So obviously I have a bunch of the attack stats. I have the rally troop size increase, the defense decrease opportunity, the mana regen is just absolutely incredible. So let's go out here. And even though Alicia is quote-unquote a archer commander, none of her skills actually include archers, which is kind of crazy. Where is Alicia at? There she is. So if we take a look at her kit, that's just skill damage to any target. Increases basic attack for troops commanded by Alicia, so that one's out. Increases troop size by 20% for troops commanded by Alicia. Then you get the mana regen, and then you also have inflicts damage equal to 300% of attack. Has a decreased marching speed. So for these two work incredibly well together, and I'm really hoping that they fix her her skill, because we can't really see it. But even when fighting this barbarian, it's 580 to 7100. Just basic attack. That's pretty crazy. So if we take a look, obviously, as soon as her active skill comes out, it's just crushed. So I mean, that's just incredible. So we're looking at 144% attack, 84% defense, 109% health. We're looking at
counter
nothing
damage,
else.
nothing. There you
No.
go.
No, that's... Well, technically we want counter damage reduction, but in this scenario we don't. So I would definitely throw Mimir with Belly or Alicia, and then kind of just split them up. Because we have Melody, who increases all the attack damage. We have Lumi. We have... Not Rena.
You're looking for the other one.
Yeah, I'm looking for... What am I looking for?
I feel like
okay. We have Lust. If you're in this portion, you have Riza. So there's a bunch. So obviously, that is everything regarding Mimir. And then, if you guys have anything different to say, just let me know. Be cool to see anyone else's opinions on that. And then, as always, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Peace out.